All right, I think we're ready. Last time we looked at some TPU a little bit. We talked about the print settings for TPU, why you might want to use TPU. It's the flexible rubbery filament. There's not just one particular type of TPU. There's a lot of different brands, and there are a lot of different properties for TPU. So you might have one TPU that's very elastic, another that's pretty rigid. The one that I had on hand was I'm looking at it here, Sane Smart, and I think this is one of the ones that's more rigid, so it's on the 95A and higher Shure scale. We also used Meshy.ai to generate a model, like the one that we could print. So I don't remember if you remember that or not, but we typed in sitting bulldog, I think was the prompt, that was the whole thing. And it came up with 4 different ones. One of them was reasonable. We took that one. It wasn't quite printable right off the bat, I didn't think anyway, because it had some overhangs that were going to probably create problems. So we took it over to a online digital clay tool called Sculpt GL, and we just kind of modeled it around to where it looked like it was more printable. And we left off with it was printing, and it did print. So it's the smaller one here. It did have some support anyway. The support, I did already remove it, so it's going to come off really easily, but it came off pretty easily. And here's our little, it's kind of be hard to see because it's all very bright color. I don't know if I can make that better. Let's see. No, that doesn't seem to. What about that? Maybe it's getting really dark, but maybe you can see him a little better. What if I turn that on? Nah, nothing really helps see it. But he did print, and he is flexible. His tail flexes. He himself is pretty solid, though. I printed it with 2 walls and 20% infill. But it is pliable. It's just really pretty solid. I would say it's pretty durable for a thing. I was going to expect it to be a little more soft, so I printed it again, apparently at a larger scale. Same thing, the support's removed pretty easily. This one I printed 2 walls and I think 10% infill, and it was much squishier, but we had a delamination problem there. There's just nothing holding that layer. There's very little support interfacing with the walls there, and when I squished it, it just popped those layers apart. Now it is more flexible as a whole, but it did have that problem. So normally TPU does not pull apart at the layers very easily, although this one did. So I have to say that that's not what you want. What probably this is, it's a function of there's only the 2 walls there with nothing in between, and I did dry that TPU, but it's been like 4 days since I dried it, so it could have had a little bit of moisture absorption. TPU is pretty bad about absorbing moisture. I did show you last time the little vacuum seal bag. I did put it in there during class or during the stream, but I took it back out to use it, and so maybe it was a little bit not brittle, but had some moisture in it. Whatever reason, that one didn't print. It printed fine, but when I went to actually manipulate it, I squeezed it around or whatever, it popped it in half. So then I thought, well, what other things can we do in TPU? And so I did this phone case. Now, I downloaded it from Printables. Printables is Prussia's version of the free model website. It seems like every company now kind of just does their own little version, and you see a lot of the same models in all of these sites, but that's where I found this one. Unfortunately, it did come out fine. Actually, this is what TPU normally is like. It did have a little bit of support because it had to build, that little gap in there. I had to build that gap in there. The support was removing really pretty easily. Let me actually show you in Cura, at least, that there are support settings that you may, if your supports are not coming off very easily. Now, sometimes they'll just peel easily off. Sometimes you have to use some pliers or whatever. But there are support settings that you can modify if yours are not working too well. Maybe they're too loose and they don't really do anything, or they're bonded too tightly to the actual model and you can't get them off. So let's see if I can find what I'm looking for here. All right, here's the support category. And each slicer is going to have the same types of things. But first of all, you have, do you want supports on or off? So in this case, I needed them on. There are two major categories of support. Normal is what I use most of the time, but in special cases, I will use tree. Sometimes they're called organic supports. The difference here is the normal ones are pretty much rectilinear. They're just little columns of support material, and they work pretty good. They're faster in general to generate for sure, and faster in general to print. When I would use a tree is if I have a model where there are support materials going up to some upper part of the model, and I don't want them touching the bottom part of the model. Like I don't want them to have to build off of the model to go up. I want them to go around the model and hold up something at the top. So for figures, in fact, I did print a figure. Let me show you this one. This is not TPU. So this little guy, let's zoom in on him. I printed this one to show that you can get pretty good detail. He's not going to hold still. I need to zoom in on him. Let's see. So he's super tiny. He's like an inch tall. Where'd he go? There he is. So he's an inch tall. He is a FDM print with I think a 0.08 layer height. I think that's what I had it at. That's getting at the limit of what a 0.4 nozzle can actually achieve. So you can't go much thinner than that without dropping the nozzle size down. But like, you would have to get a pretty accurate zoom to see any layer lines. His little staff did break, so it was you can kind of see where it was attached right there, but it had support around it with the tree supports, and so this is one of the ones where I would want a tree support in general, because maybe I don't want support all embedded in his clothes or whatever. I want the support to build up and go around and hold up something up here or whatever, or his hand or something like that. Tree supports are good for that sort of thing. I'm going to zoom back out because it's really, there he is. So those are the two major kinds, normal and tree. A lot of times I'm just in normal because they're a little bit faster to deal with. But if I'm doing something with a lot of details or something where I don't want the support touching other parts of the model, the tree, sometimes they're called organic supports, they'll kind of grow around your model and then hold up the part that you want to print. Those don't really necessarily help with support removal, although the tree supports are easier to remove if you have a complicated model in general. But here are some things. There's a lot of settings in here. I'm looking for some particular ones. Let's see, this one. So in Cura, at least, it's called support Z distance, and this is the gap between where your supports end and the model starts. So if this gap is too big, then it's not really supporting your model and you're going to have sags in the model. But if it's too small of a gap, then you risk the support welding into the model, and then they're hard to remove. So that's one thing. Right now I've just got it set as a function of the layer thickness, so it's one layer thick, but you could have it at some other interval if you wanted to. You could modify that gap on just the top or bottom. Usually the top is the one that matters, but it is possible that the bottom is sitting on the model. There is another, let's see, this option, support placement. Most slicers let you say only touching the build plate, so that it will only build up from the build plate and go up. It won't build supports on the model. So that's useful if you are trying to not have to remove supports from they built up from the model to another part of the model. If you do touching build plate and you have the normal support structure like it's set to right now, then it could leave some of the support, some places unsupported, because it will only build columns straight up. Now if you put tree support, then support placement everywhere, it is going to build off the build plate anyway. So if you think that you don't need supports that build from the model to another part of the model, then normal and touching build plate can be useful. And that touching build plate, the bottom distance, support bottom distance, doesn't really have any effect then. But if you build up a support, let me try and because this is hard to describe. I can see it in my mind, but it's hard to describe. Let me draw a picture. Let's see. Oh, there's that old printer. So let's say that this is your model. Now I don't know why you would model something like this, but this is what you model. Maybe it's a chess piece. You know, it's a really flat pawn, so it's a chess piece, and you're worried that right here is not going to be not going to hold up because it's a really flat overhang and it's probably going to sag. So your build plate will just be down here. Well, maybe we could draw that a little straighter than that. There's the build plate. So if you do normal supports like the rectilinear ones, I'll draw all the supports in red. They will build. Let's go look at our settings. So if we have support structure normal, support placement everywhere, all right, then it will build supports here, and they're gonna build off of the model itself, and that is where you might want to deal with this support bottom distance. The bottom distance would be the gap in that blue circle between the support and the model, because you could get it to where the top of it releases fine, but it's welded to the bottom. If you did support structure normal, support placement touching build plate, these wouldn't even build. Oh, I can't erase some point. I have to, okay. Well, you get the idea. None of those would build because they can't touch the build plate. They could only build supports off of here, and there's nothing to support, so it wouldn't build those. So you'd have this pink area would be totally unsupported. If you built support structure tree, then they would build up, you know, they're going to be these little columns, circular columns, and they'd build up kind of like this, and they'd come over here. Sometimes they branch off into little tiny branches, and they do something like that. So they would only touch the model where they needed to support it, and they wouldn't touch any of this part. So you wouldn't have to try and remove them from the model. So it takes a little longer to print and to calculate where the supports are going. But in this case, that's what I would do, because I really wouldn't want to build the supports starting here and going up to the model. And I don't like that if I don't have to have that. All right, what else do I have? I have those distances. This is an important one to tune in, but there's also these three right here, the support interface. So this is how does the support actually touch the model, and I have it turned on that it's going to build a roof and a floor. So I have the interface turned on and the roof and the floor turned on. And so what that does, and I think it works, it does take a little bit longer to deal with, but I think it works a little bit better. Let's change our model so that we're not worried about this part anymore. So now our model is going to look like this. All right, and we want to support that pink area. So normal support, so the rectilinear ones, with the support interface ceiling turned on. So I lost our build plate. There's our build plate. They're going to build up to here like they normally would. And they're going to build a little roof on top of the, like a covering on top of the support structure. And I think this does two things pretty well. One, it supports the model a little bit better. And two, I think it actually, in my experience anyway, makes it easier to remove. And the other part of that is the support interface floor right there. That's just the same thing, but it does it down here. I do have that turned on. Probably doesn't do as much as the roof does. Let's see if there's any others in here that there's a bunch in here. There's all kinds of patterns. Yeah, I think those are the main ones that I would work on tuning. So first of all, what kind of support do you want? Normally I'm going to be in normal. And then I normally do everywhere. And if I need it to, if I think it's going to do like that first, if I think it's going to do this, then instead of normal, I do tree supports. And then I have got the Z distance tuned to 1 layer thickness. That seems to work pretty well for me. And in general, that's true. Unless you're over or under extruding, then that's probably true. And then I also have on the interface. Whoops, just turned it off. So I have the interface turned on. I've lost where it went now. There they are. And I have the roof and floor, although the floor probably you could leave off. So those are some support settings that if your supports are not coming off easily. I said all of that because these came off pretty easy, and even in TPU. So that was a pretty good deal. I did print this guy just to show you that you can get really high detail, small models on an FDM printer. A lot of people think that you have to go to a resin printer, which is also true. A resin printer can give you very high details, and it has its own benefits. Then I printed this. Oh yeah, I never finished my story. I got it from Printables. It said it fit my phone, and it fits a different version of my phone, so not mine. But it did come out to where, would it save your phone? I don't know. It's not very thick or anything, but you could imagine creating a custom phone case out of TPU. So I've done that before. There are some people that make, not TPU, it's a similar material that's flexible, but they will print shoes out of them. And those are really interesting. I've never done that. It's a really long print to print something the size of a shoe. Some companies, Nike, I think Adidas has some almost fully 3D printed shoes. They don't use FDM printing. They use a resin style, like a SLA printing. But that's one thing that's out there. I printed this. This is not TPU. It's just one of these little fidget cubes. Now this is a multicolor one, so it does have, this one would need a 2 nozzle or a material changer, filament changer, to print something like this. So, but you can get articulated models printed in place. This isn't assembled, it's printed on the printer all as one piece. It printed, I think, that way. We were also going to talk a little bit about all metal hot end versus regular hot end. So this one's a regular hot end, and the all metal part is talking about, if I can get it unscrewed. Oh, this has a piece of filament stuck in it. This heat break. So this is the part that determines if it's all metal or not. So you've got your heat block. Let's zoom in a little bit. Heat block. You've got your heat sink, and then connecting the two of them is the heat break. And so remember, the idea here is that I've got a heater in the heat block, 200 plus degrees Celsius. The filament is being fed into here. If this gets really hot, then the filament's just going to turn to mush way too soon, and I can't push it out of the nozzle. But I do need something connecting where the filament comes in to where the filament comes out, and that is this heat break. So this is just an ordinary one. This would be a not all metal hot end, and the difference is that you've got some tube, a Teflon tube, whether it's blue or this color, white, creamy blue, then the filament is being fed down this tube. And if this tube goes down into, actually this one may be an all metal, kind of hard to say now that I'm trying to put the tube in there. So the tube goes in, it only goes into maybe right there. So this may not be a regular heat break. This might be an all metal hot end. The tube is the issue. So this is Teflon, and Teflon begins to break down, not like melt and everything, but it begins to degrade at around 240 degrees Celsius. So if this tube is down into the nozzle heat block area, which some of them do go that far, like they can get way down into here, then the issue will be that if you print any hot material, so even this TPU, the rating on it goes up to this particular one only goes to 220, but a lot of a TPU is in the 240 range, and if this tube is close to the 240 degree heat block, then it will begin to degrade, and it will create problems for you. So this piece is the all metal or not piece. So this is always all metal. It's just, does it have this tube, Teflon tube, down in it or not? And this one's kind of not. I mean, it goes a little ways in there, but that would probably not be the hot region. I used to have an assignment that I think it's still an optional assignment, but it used to be a required assignment, where you take these pieces, model them in something like SolidWorks, and then put a whatever temperature, 240, 220, whatever temperature you wanted to, but turn on a heat source where that heater is, and then watch the heat, like do a transient analysis and a simulation, and watch the heat creep up into this area. And so if you don't have convection on this heat sink, like a fan blowing across it, then that heat will creep up into here, and that's when you're going to have clogs. At least that heat creep clogs. You can have clogs for other reasons too. And then if you do the same simulation, same temperatures and everything, but have a fan blowing across the heat sink, then the heat in here is actually just a little above ambient temperature. So this, I think this would probably be somewhere in between. I don't know if this is all metal or not, because it doesn't go too far down in there. Now it goes inside here. I'm going to take this off because it will lock it in there if I don't. So it'll, goes down in there. That area should still be not too hot. It'll be warm, but not too hot. So I think this one might count as all metal hot end, or really close to it anyway. The whole deal is, does this tube get really close to this heat source down here? If it does, then you're maxed out on a certain temperature that you can print, and it's about 240. And even 240 is a little bit risky for long periods of time. So that limits the materials you can choose. All right. I don't see anything in the chat yet, so we will carry on. Let's see. What do I want to talk about next? Oh, speaking of materials, this is a decent thing. Let me find here. Here? Nope. Oh, yes. I've got two links here. This is on the Canvas page. If you don't have access to Canvas, you'll have to just search for these. They're easy enough to find. But one is the Advanced Material Guide from Prusa. So this, let's open it in a new window. This is on Prusa's webpage, and it is a pretty much completely comprehensive for FDM printing. What temperatures do things print at? Do you need hardened nozzles? Do you need this in a dry box? Do you need to print it in an enclosure? What kind of sheets? The sheets category mean the bed surface. So what kind of bed surfaces can you print on and not print on? Is it soluble? So is it good for a support material? Physical properties, you need something that's very heat resistant. Oh, I probably need to go with polycarbonate, but that means I got to print it at 270. So that means I need to have a all metal hot end, and I might even have to do some other tuning. I need to print it on a satin build sheet or use glue stick on PEI. Recommended to have an enclosure. So, you can start to see if you want to print a certain material, or if you want a certain set of properties. They're off. Let me make them not go off your screen here. So over here, there's a set of properties, including price. So, see if I can get that. There we go. So even price is in here. I'm thinking that price here, a low number is good. None of them are green though. Yeah, so I think a fewer dots is good on price, but more dots on these others is good. I don't know, I guess they just decided to do it that way. So you've got all sorts of material choices to look from, and each one is like, oh, well, PLA, you open it up and there's a bunch of different PLAs in there. Like, I don't know where it ended, right there. Now, it's not every PLA that's out there, but it's a lot of the ones that you might, do I need PLA plus? There's probably a tough PLA somewhere, or there's an impact PLA, some particular brands of PLA. So you can get, there's the one you get from Amazon. And it does say it's easily soluble in some materials you don't really want to mess with. But, it even gives you an actual price here. Actually, I think it's cheaper than that in general. Not sure why it doesn't give you the actual numbers for the Amazon one. It does for the others. Oh, maybe it only gives you the numbers for their materials. But this is called the Filament Material Guide from Prusa 3D. And it's got everything, and it's got filters. You can filter for, I want something that I want to print some tiny parts, and so here's some of the materials that are good for tiny parts, or whatever. So that's a really good resource for finding a material that is going to be in a particular application. So the other one that I have linked here is where'd it go? We're on class 10. No, we're on class 11 on Canvas. Is this one from the YouTuber Thomas Sandlander, I think. And he did a combination of, I think, 5 different filaments and how they stick to each other. So there's this video, and he's got the major categories. There's a fly buzzing around as usual. PLA, PETG, ABS, ASA, and Flex just being any of the flexible filaments. And there's his little models he built, printed them, and here's the results. So what this will tell you is if you have a need to print 2 materials that don't stick together, then okay, well, PLA and PETG come apart with a light force, or PLA and ABS, and so forth. Then, or if you need 2 different materials but they have to bond together, well, the Flex and PETG fully weld together, ASA and ABS fully weld together. So it's a nice little chart when you're trying to sort out, you want 2 different materials and you want one of them to peel away from the other, or for whatever reason you want 2 different materials and you want them to bond together. This little chart will show you according to his results, and he did a little array of printing, and it also is which one's on bottom and which one's on top. And I don't think it matters the order in any of these. Seems like if flex is on bottom with ASA on top, there's a high force. But if ASA is on bottom and flex is on top, it's almost a full weld. So there's a slight difference down in there, but in general, it doesn't make much difference which one's printed on bottom or which one's printed on top. I think in his case, top was the part you were trying to keep, and bottom was the support material. So that's useful if you're trying to print two materials that you either do want to stick or don't want to stick together. So, and you can find that one, it's at toms3d.org, and it's filament combinations if you just need to search for it. All right, let's see. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about today, maybe let me make sure I've got all my list of stuff here. Let's see, let's go over to here. Did that. All right, so we did multicolor, and we did this kind of multicolor here. We printed a little shark. We did the Saints logo. I don't even see it anymore. But we did those where we were printing one color on top of another color, or we even looked at this kind, which you have to have a special printer for. And these are pretty interesting, but there is another process. It takes a little bit of software. I mentioned it before, and it's called HueForge. Let me get to their web page here. It's just HueForge.com will get you to here. Actually, it says shop HueForge.com. This is one printer, one nozzle, one filament at a time, and it costs $24, I think, if you went to buy it. So if you went to buy it, HueForge personal use, so if you just want to make your own things, yes, it's $24. It's a perpetual license, which means you don't have a subscription you have to keep updating. You just own the software. If you want commercial, like you want to sell the prints, then it costs more and so forth. But $24. And what this does is it takes into account the fact that the filament is a little bit transparent. So what it does is it will still print one layer and then print another layer on top of that. Sometimes the layers are different colors, and it will create a more than what the number of filaments you used, more colors than that, because it will take into account the fact that if you only print one little thin layer of gray, it actually is transparent enough that whatever's underneath it can be seen through it, so they kind of blend together. So I've got one here that I printed right here. This is 4 colors. Now it took 7 hours to print, and it's 3 filament changes. So started out just printing black, and then I don't know if you can see the edge of it or not very well. You can kind of see it does have thickness to it, so it's not like flat. Let's see if I can get a better picture of that. You can kind of see, yeah, there's some thickness to it. So started out, I think, like 7 layers of black just to get a base, and there are some layers where the black is still showing through. So right in there, there's some black that's fully exposed. Then it printed the blue, so it did I don't know, 10-ish layers. We'll look in a second and see how many layers, but somewhere 10 layers of blue. Some of the layers of blue were thinner than others, like only 1 layer thick, and then in other areas maybe all 7 layers of blue were stacked on top of one another, so you could get these gradients. Then it did a gray, and then actually you can see a gradient in here, how it's kind of going from blue to gray, and in the middle there's kind of a gradient in there. What's going on is there's less and less gray here than there is maybe in some of these areas. I'll try and zoom in on it to see if you can see how, when you look at it up close, you can see more of the effect of how it's doing it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to. Let me turn that light off. Yeah, there you can see better. So you can kind of see how there's some splotchy area. Where am I at? There we are. Some splotchy areas of overlapping between one material and another. So that's how it can affect the color. And then the final layers were just a white filament. Now, none of these were tuned, so it does want you to either use specifically the filaments that are in the HueForge system, and it's got list and list and list of brands of filament. The problem was my white filament and gray filament were unbranded, so I didn't know what brand they were. I just had to kind of guess. But assuming that you have filaments that come from a particular list, or you tune the filaments to whatever their transmissivity is, what they need to know. It's like how much light or how translucent are the filaments. So it does need to know that. So either you need to use filaments that are in their pre-built list or tune your own filaments. I didn't tune mine and it came out good enough. I just kind of guessed which filament they were close to. But it gives you a pretty nice effect. Let's see if we can focus. There it goes. Pretty nice effect for something that you could print on your printer. Now, if you do it on your own printer, you do have to go in and change the filament after however many layers. So you have to manually do that, kind of like we did with the Saints logo. You could either insert filament changes, like we did with the Saints logo in the G code, or there's some tutorials on, hey, if you're using this slicer, then you can use this plugin to create a filament change at whatever layer you need. This one I did use just to save me having to sit there and wait for and change filament manually. I did use the AMS, so I had the 4 colors loaded. In the slicer, I did have to I'll show you how to do that a little bit, maybe, but it takes a long time actually, because this thing is actually very highly detailed. Like it takes 3 or 4 minutes to slice it, maybe something like that, because it's got millions of triangles in it. Let's see. Sorry with the A1 Mini. Yes, that is true. So yeah, if you it can get, you can spend as much money as you want to in 3D printing. That is certainly true. You're going with the A1 Mini and the P1S and A1. Yeah. So those are all really good printers. I have the X1C, but I've used the A1 Mini, and I haven't used the P1S, but it's very similar to the X1C, and they're really, really good printers. I haven't had any real trouble with them at all. One time some filament got stuck and I had to pull it out, but other than that, pretty good printers. Actually, very good printers. So if you want to create some pretty cool effects, $24 it does cost. You get one, like they give you one pre-done file that you can just print if you want to test it out with whatever filament you have on hand. They give you one, but if you want to do any of your own, then it does cost $24. But this one, what I did is, this is a piece of the Great Wave, and I just found a picture of it, cropped it to the size I wanted, and let's show you the software. So where is it at? Here we go. This is the software. Now I will say that it starts out in light mode, and it looks like something from the I don't know, the 90s, early 2000s piece of software. But turn it into dark mode and it looks like, oh, okay, this, I don't know, it just looked better in dark mode. I think preferences, dark mode. Yeah, light and dark mode. I'll turn it to light mode so you can see what I was talking about. It looked like it, I don't know, it didn't look as nice in light mode for whatever reason. Probably just my personal opinion. Yeah, so there's the light mode. Looks like something built in Excel or whatever. Let's go back to dark mode. Yes. So the a lot of the stuff I print on those bamboos I get from the bamboo slicer. Whoop, I got a phone call there. Bamboo slicer. What's it called? Their market, Maker World maybe. No, the Maker World is where I can't remember their name, but I get a lot of the models from there. So this is the picture on the right hand side. That's the picture that I cropped and like cut and pasted. So you can see it does have some like tannish colors in it that mine didn't pick up because I only used these 4 colors. So what you do is you go through and catalog what colors you have available. So and there's a list and list and list, and then there's, you know, all different. There's TPU, you can print and whatever, ASA. Now do remember, some of these materials don't stick to one another, so you'd have to go back to that, you know, this chart kind of here. So you wouldn't want to print, oh, I've got the perfect color in PETG and I'm going to print the others in PLA, but you couldn't do that because they won't stick together. So do be aware that you can't just mix and match any of these filaments. But I just went through the PLA tab and I found colors that I have these colors and I think they would work pretty well together to make this particular picture. So that's what I did. So what happens then is it takes the colors that you've selected. You can select as many as you want, because if you're doing this a manual filament change, you can sit there and change out filament as often as you want to. I chose 4 because the AMS has 4 slots on it, and that way I could just do it without having to go and intervene ever so often. Like I said, it did take 7 hours to print, so I didn't want to just sit there waiting, you know, for 7 hours to change filament. So I picked these 4. I actually did have these 2, and then these 2 they were unknown to me what colors they were. So it was the blue and the gray. They weren't branded on the roll, so I don't know what they were. So I picked something that looks similar. These numbers in here matter. So these numbers are the transmissivity, I think is what they call them, or transmission distance. And that, if that number is wrong, then you won't get quite as much bleed between the colors as you want. So what it's doing here on the left hand side is based on the colors that you chose that you want to work with. So I selected these 4. This is its preview, and you can kind of see it tries to, you know, show you the blending between them. And I think that's, you know, based on what, that's the preview, and that's what I got. It's pretty close, you know, not quite the same, but it's pretty close. So you can also say that, you know, I think I need a little less blue. So there's these sliders down here. These are the, I only have the 4 filaments that I have loaded. These sliders are trying to tell you how many layers of each filament are you going to print. So maybe you think there's too little blue. You can say, well, I want to print more blue, and you can start raising up, you know, the amount of blue that you're going to print, or lowering down the amount of blue you're going to print. And so the slider kind of helps you adjust where you think the best combination. Maybe you want less gray, or you want more gray, you know. Actually, wherever I had it was looking pretty good. Now I don't know where it was. Somewhere in there. And so you can kind of change the effect by manually. Now it'll drop in a set of what it thinks are the right ones that best match the picture, and it's usually not far off. I think I was at an 8 there. And what happens next is, well, so you can go to this describe button, and it will tell you this is what needs to happen. So start with black filament. At layer number 8, go to your dark blue filament. At layer 16, go to your gray. At layer 22, go to the white for the rest of the print, or whatever yours is. So I used these in the slicer to tell it to change the filaments at those different layers. If you were doing this manually, you'd have to go into the slicer and tell it, hey, I want a filament change here, so pause and let me change the filament manually. And you could do that as many colors as you wanted to. Like, you don't have to just do 4 or 2 or whatever. You can do as many as you want. And the more colors you have, then the better you're going to represent the actual picture. Like if I had a beige color, like maybe this one right here, if I added that one to the mix, then I could probably start to pick up some of that beige color in there. Let's see, I don't remember how to make it reprocess. So let's see. If how do I reprocess it? Remesh? Reset view? No. Remesh? Don't remember how to make it. I've always just started from scratch every time, so I don't know how to make it process the new color. Got models from Yegi, Thingiverse, and Printables. Oh yes, those are also places where I typically get models. Colts 3D has some really good models too, but they're usually paid. But they do have some nice models. And if you want a cool project, there's some really cool RC car models out there. I'm not thinking of the website right now. Actually, let me show you while I think about how to get back to the oh, maybe it's in here. File, reload. Maybe we'll reload it. See if that does anything. Doesn't seem to. This website, I think it's if I can find it. This one. So this one has some free models that are multicolor, but they're individual parts. So you can just have red filament, print all the red parts, blue filament, print all the blue parts, and so forth, and then they snap together. So if you want some cool articulated models and you happen to like old school transformers, and they have other stuff too if you go to home, but most of them look like, you know, they're old school transformers, and then some other ones. They have plenty of free models here. So this is Toymaker 3D with a M-A-K-R, no E in there on the Toymaker. So there's some really cool ones there. Let me search for see if I can see what button I use to recalculate it. Resetting. I don't see the. Here we go. I don't see how to actually make it remesh. There's probably a button in here somewhere that I'm just not seeing. Reload. Oh, I did. I tried reload, didn't I? Well, anyway, let's just try new project. Yeah, discard. That's fine. So basically, you start with the image here. I had downloaded one I wanted to try. Let's see if I can find it, because it wants me to drag it onto the thing. Let's see. I guess I put it in downloads. Actually, not sure. Nope. Those are all G-code files. Oh, this one. All right. Due to how color and brightness compensation brightness just will not work unless edit. Okay, always hit edit. That's fine. So here's a front picture from a 65 Mustang. Now with the color set that I've chosen here, I get basically a black and white picture. So I need some more. It does have blue in there. It's just not using a lot of it. So actually it didn't use the blue at all. It only used the others. I don't know why it didn't want to throw the blue in there. Let's see. How do I get blue in there? I don't use this enough. I usually just take the defaults, but for whatever reason, it's not putting this one in here for me. Oh, you just drag it on there. Although it looks like blue would need to be an earlier one. I don't know how to rearrange them. Maybe I have to put them in order. I don't know. But let's say you get this sorted out the way you want it. I want to drag it over there, and I don't know how. I guess I could put it as an earlier color. Get that out of there. So you get it tuned the way you want it, however you whatever colors you want to use. I'm not sure. Oh, there's the add. Oh, that just adds a slider though. And what it'll do when you download the file for it is it creates a, well, you can see here 1.3 million triangles. So it's a really big, dense file. So it does take a long time to slice. Like I said, maybe 3 minutes to slice it, and you have to reslice it for every color change. The way I did the color changes anyway. So let's see if it's still open. I don't think I still have the slicer open. So anyway, you reslice it for each of your color changes and send it to your printer. And then either you use your AMS to let it automatically change the colors, or you manually change the colors. I need to play around with it more to get some better details on, how do I get it to better match the color. Probably I just need more colors available. Anyway, I don't want to save it. The other thing that I was going to tell you about is that it does work better if you go and tune your filaments. So if you don't have filaments that are in the list, then it does have a process where you can calculate the transmission value for the individual filaments that you do have, so that the very roll that you have, you can print a little test, and then it knows, based on the results of the test, it knows, the software knows how transmissive that particular filament is, and it can layer it better. But the results are actually pretty good. A little time consuming, but it is totally doable, except for the $24. It's not totally free. Yeah, I usually try to only show you free stuff, but this one is not totally free. Like I said, you can try it out on your own. Let's see, somewhere in here, right here. So this is on the About page for HueForge, and it's shop.thehueforge.com. About. There's a try a print. You get one free thing, and it's this astronaut. It's on printables actually. So you get this little astronaut you can try with just whatever color set you have, and it's already sliced and it's already sliced. You just have to do the filament changes, and whatever filaments you put in there, will, they used all orange because it's Prusa, but you can try it out. Otherwise, it does cost a little bit, and there are a lot of tuning guides and how to get better print. They got almost full color prints here. I have not tried anything. I've done more just the 4 color prints and kind of just done the automatic processing. But I do try to, at least when I've used it before, I do try to find pictures that I think will work well with the colors of filament I do have. They do have a, if you buy this software, they're connected to Polymaker somehow. I don't really know who owns who, or just a connection. And you get a coupon for some of the Polymaker filaments, and in fact you can actually even buy Polymaker filament from here. So they're set up to work with the Polymaker filament, which is a good filament. I don't know this chrominal filament. I haven't used that before. That's I guess their own filament. It's a little pricey, looks to me like, but maybe it's very specific. I don't know. Looks a little pricey though. $40 for a kilogram seems a bit much. How much is their Polymaker? Actually, their polymaker is a little bit. I guess these are like particularly tuned colors. I think I would just. They've got plenty of brands and lists in the actual software. You don't have to use their particular filaments. All right. I think that's enough for today. I don't have any new little things other than what I've already shown you here. Maybe try one of these. I don't know if I have one of these listed as an option for one of the assignments, but it certainly can be. I think there's multi-material, if nothing else. But if you want to, you do have to either do the astronaut for free, or if you want to do something other than that, then you'd have to pay the $24. But it's pretty neat. It's a little bit longer print because you're printing the layers really thin. Like these are 0.08 layers thick, 0.08 millimeter layers, and there's 27 layers, I think. And so it does take a while to print, but I think the results are pretty cool. If you did, you can't just scale it though, right? So you can't slice this and scale it down to make it print faster because it will scale the layers also, and then your filament changes get all messed up. So if you want it smaller, you have to change the size in the HueForge software, then slice it based on the results from the HueForge software. All right, I will see you on Monday, and we'll do some more things. Maybe we can get back to our X30 Conquest. We've got a couple more parts we need to make on it. Maybe I'll drag out the resin printers. We haven't done any of that yet. They're just kind of hard to move around because they're messy, but maybe we can get those out here to look at how the resin printers work. All right, I will see y'all on Monday.